Hi, welcome to another edition of Seven's Pinball-orama. Here we are, we're back again with Chicago Coin, 1952 big hit. As you can see, power. And it goes ding. There, ding. The last video, I was cleaning the stepper units in this. Those are all clean. The credit mechanism was a big pain in the butt. It was seized, and I didn't make a video on it because I would have had to bleep every third word. It was kind of a bear to get at. The whole assembly had to come out. It wasn't a hinge thing like the other ones. It took a few hours, but I got that all cleaned up, and now it's moving freely and everything's working. And you can see everything resets. Quiet, you. A little noisy. So I started, before I turned it on, after I got those all cleaned up, I lifted up the playfield. There was actually a bag in there with a bunch of old, like, nasty broken rubbers and my missing flipper and the armature that goes with it. These flippers actually work on a single coil, and you can hit either button and both flippers move. That's just the way they were back then. So I was lucky that the flipper was there and the armature. That was nice. Also was a treasure map. This really neat. Ooh. It's actually the original schematics. So that's a plus. So I started cleaning this up, and I noticed as I was going through it, every once in a while, this thing would just start scoring. It would just start doing this. Like, what is causing that? So, because it was scoring here in the home team runs, there's 4 places on the playfield where it indicates that the home team scores. So one is this, it's not a pop bumper, it's just a bumper target. This switch here, this switch, and then the slingshot. So it wasn't either of these, and it wasn't this. Oops. So I looked at this bumper target, and how the bumper target works on these is and I'm sorry, I don't know the proper names for all these parts, so I'm just going to wing it. So there's this top assembly with the rubber on it. There's this disc that sits underneath it. Underneath that is a spring, and then there's a cup that sort of holds the bottom of the spring, and it sits in the playfield. My first thought was, because this thing's all gross and gunky, my first thought was that it was probably just dirty. So I took the whole thing apart. They're pretty easy to take apart. The light socket has 2 wires that go through, and there's a solder point there, so you have to desolder that. And then this disc actually has a metal rod that goes down from it. And so you have the disc with this rod on it, and at the bottom of this rod, there's a ring, a metal ring that it sits in. So when this tilts, it would actually hit the edges of this ring. What was happening is it would tilt and get stuck and just lean on that ring. So that rod, there's a wire that goes to that. You have to desolder that, and then there's another section that you have to desolder, the opposite end of that. You'll see it when you get under there. Pretty obvious. There's 2 screws in the top. You take those out, and then this whole thing just kind of comes off in sections, or maybe together in the case of this one. So I took it apart, I cleaned it, I put it all back together again, and it was still doing it. And I thought, well, that's kind of weird, because it all seems okay. I took a closer look, and it actually stumped me for a while, trying to figure out what was causing this. So I took a closer look, and what's actually going on is that since you have these lights in these targets with a cap on it, they're retaining heat. And over the years, it's warping this assembly. And so at the bottom of this, there's a hole. And on the disc, there's kind of this other little smaller disc that fits inside that hole. So since it warped, it pinched against that smaller disc and you had no range of movement. It would just get stuck. It would move actually on this one, it would move up and down, but left and right, it would get stuck. So, you know, pretty easy fix. Get out the Dremel, right? So I took out the Dremel, very carefully just rounded the section where it had elongated, just made it a little bit wider, just worked it until it seemed to have a nice flow of movement. Put it all back together again and works perfect from every side. So yeah, I thought that was an unusual problem that was, you know, worthy of a video, I guess, because it's kind of strange. I could see having a machine like this, an older machine, or I don't know if they're kind of the same mechanism as some of the newer ones, but I can see like, oh, why is this happening? Like, is it, you know? So yeah, you know what I mean. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so thought I'd make a video, and that's the end of the video. So I'm gonna get back to cleaning Big Hit because I want to play it. All right, until next time, thanks for watching.
Right.